Hello and welcome back to the Homestand Show. Exciting times. A month into this show, the first time we're discussing Formula One with Sara Poraria. Love my F1, Sarah. Aussie Grand Prix this weekend, the third race of the season. Lots of rain in Friday's practice so far. But Fernando Alonso and Aston Martin, once again, really quick. Is this team for real?
Yeah. This team is for real. It's really exciting for Fernando Alonso, who, left F1, did some NASCAR, did Le Mans, came back, and now, performing almost as if he's back in his, early 30s. And it's great. I'm very excited. Also, I know a lot of Canadian fans are as well, with Lance Stroll being his driving partner. But they definitely are for real. The car has changed immensely. They had someone come over actually from Red Bull, one of the technicians, and so that engineer has helped a ton. But the car itself is fantastic, and Alonso finished P1 in the second practice of the day there, so great news for them all around.
I want to ask you about Max Verstappen. Full disclosure, I'm not the hugest F1 guy. I do watch time to time. I'm not a Drive to Survive guy, unfortunately.
You should be.
Yeah,
I know.
That's
we can count the show.
Miserable that.
Watch Ted Lasso first, then Drive to Survive.
The show that I haven't watched is its own segment. But Max Verstappen, I have him here at minus 500 to win out this season. Not just this race. He's minus 250 to win this race. But how can one driver be so much more dominant than the others?
It's like when we saw Lewis Hamilton for the last 10 years, 2 years back, the 10 years prior to that was all Lewis Hamilton, was all Ferrari. It's the same thing that's happening now with Max Verstappen and with Red Bull. Their car is leaps and bounds above the rest. It is so much faster. 2 weeks ago, in Jeddah, we saw Verstappen went from 15th to 2nd. That shouldn't be allowed. That shouldn't be possible. But because then all these other, lower level drivers would be able to do that as well. But 15th to 2nd, that's insane. So it's the car itself is much better, but Verstappen's also a great driver. Credit to him.
Yeah, because Sergio Perez, his partner, they have the same car. So this is where I'm kind of confused. Like, how can his driving be so much more better than his partners, even though that they're in the same car? What makes Verstappen that much better than him?
I will say Verstappen is a better driver than Checo, but it's also because Red Bull prioritized Verstappen over Checo. Each constructor has two racers, and one is always the preferred driver. So that's who Verstappen is with Red Bull. 2 weeks ago in Jeddah, Checo, he won, but he also had the fastest lap. And when he was speaking to his engineers, they said, keep this pace up, you're good, you have the fastest lap. Verstappen, on the other hand, heard that and was like, I'm going to go full stop now, and raced against his partner and ended up getting the fastest lap. So he stole it from him. Last year in Brazil, I believe, we saw Checo was trying to get past Verstappen, and Verstappen wouldn't let him override him. He said, I told you guys, I will not be doing this. We spoke about this last summer. It's really competitive. It's a really weird environment between the two, but Red Bull puts Verstappen first, so he's getting every advantage constantly given by the team.
Tactics, right? It's all about tactics, but it makes a great drama as well, because you're right. Over the years, there's been great rivalries between two drivers, great young emerging drivers not getting the same attributes as their partner. And now and again, like you said, they go rogue. And it's a dodgy race, right? And they go head. It's just absolutely brilliant. I really enjoy that about F1. But you mentioned, how much better Red Bull is this year and last year. They brought all these new rules in last season to try and close this gap, right? I don't see the gap closing too much. Or is that why we're seeing Aston Martin and these other teams, Haas, looking better as well, for example?
Yeah, Haas has been great to watch this year, getting points, which is really exciting for them as like a lower level constructor. But in a sense, they are closing the gap, like you mentioned, with Haas, with Aston Martin. But at the same time, Red Bull is still so much more ahead. But it's funny because I don't really remember seeing people complain about this as much when it was Mercedes and Lewis Hamilton,
British media, that's why.
Isn't it? But honestly, with Red Bull now and Verstappen, everyone's kind of like, are we just going to have another boring season, basically? People are calling it already, and they're saying it might be another boring season, which is insane to say about F1, but it's true.
Canadian Lance Stroll is currently 7th in the driver's standings. What have you seen so far from the Canadian? What are your realistic expectations for him for the remainder?
It's hard to say because obviously with Alonso as his teammate, there's the advantage that he has one of the most respected drivers and one of the most, knowledgeable guys on the grid being his partner. He's going to learn a lot from him, and he's really excited about that. At the same time, though, Alonso is the primary driver. So if anyone's getting any advantage, it's going to be him. But I think I see Aston Martin as a whole potentially could be like third in the constructors, which would be great for Lance Stroll. As a team, him doing well with Aston Martin and them climbing up that constructors ladder is great. Individually, I'm not quite sure yet. It's early days, but it's really good for... He's racing with a really good team, is what I'm trying to say.
Well, I mean, for example, last year, 55 points for Aston Martin, right? The entire season. 38 points so far this year. 2 races in.
Yeah. 2 podiums for Alonso.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
What a turnaround.
Yeah.
Quickly, just on this race itself, Australia, what makes you're mentioning off air that it's a faster track, but what makes it different than the rest of the tracks on the circuit?
The corners, they're much wider. There's only one chicane where you kind of have a little bit of swerving there, but it's a really wide corner, so you have the ability to not slow your car down as much when you're turning. And there's 4 DRS detection zones, so that means... Are we going to talk about DRS?
Yeah, we got to
explain to the audience,
please,
and Albert, and
explain it to us, please explain it, please.
It's not
to everybody else who pretends like they know what it is.
Drag reduction system. So it's a zone where you can basically turn it on, and what it does is your front wings basically have these, I don't even know what you'd call them, like flaps, and they go up, so it allows for less drag when you're driving. So it actually makes the car go faster. Aerodynamics, basically.
Drag resistant.
System. Drag reduction
It's
system.
like turning off RuPaul. Same thing. It's a bad joke. Sorry.
It took a little while for that one.
Sorry. Ferrari. Can we go Ferrari?
Yeah.
All right, Ferrari.
Oh my God.
So quick last year.
Yeah.
Right? So quick last year. Really great in the straightaways. They rebuilt the car to be quicker in the corners this time around. But have they gone too far, do you think? Haven't been great thus far.
Yeah, it's not great for them. They're running out of their their tires are running out much quicker because they're going faster, but they won't last as long. But they're going through an entire switch right now that they thought would be ready by maybe Miami, which is at the end of April, or the beginning of May. But now they're saying that the changes that they want to make to the car that will hopefully improve Sainz and Leclerc won't be ready until Imola now, which is at the end of May. So it's again, like, I don't know what's going on with Ferrari. It's really kind of unfortunate to see, the biggest name in racing, whoever the drivers are, the biggest constructor, and they're not able to perform. But there's clearly still issues with the team and the drivers because the communication, again, we're seeing it kind of like last year repeating itself.
All right, we're speaking with Sara Poraria. Let's talk some picks and winners now. Let's make some money here. At the top of the board, Max Verstappen. He's about minus 250. Behind him is his partner at Sergio Perez. You have Alonso on there, Leclerc, Lewis Hamilton, big odds, 25-1. Outside of Verstappen, I'm assuming that is your pick to win this all?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would say so. He's never won an Australian Grand Prix, which is crazy. But I think it's time... unless something major happens with Red Bull, like an engine problem, I can't see Verstappen not winning. But
outside of him, who do you like?
Outside of him, I got to go Fernando Alonso. Has to be.
Ooh,
He's
like
been
that.
fantastic.
650.
650 is for him to finish P1. Do we know how him to podium? Do we know what that is?
I'm gonna look into that right now.
I think that has to be negative. I'd say that has to be minus.
It's surprising for someone who doesn't watch F1 regularly to see Lewis Hamilton that low on that odds board, considering he's been dominant for so long.
Well, the Mercedes just isn't the same car as it was 2 years ago, right?
That's exactly what it is.
And he walks around pit lane, looks kind of sulky. It's like, Lewis, you had it all your way, for the longest time. And you're still searching for number 8, which I think he'll get one day, I think, if he wants it. And that'll be a world record.
Yeah.
Very quickly, would that make him the greatest?
I honestly don't know. I really don't know how to answer this question. I think he's a great racer, but I think there are technically better racers that haven't won as much, but them in a car are better.
And besides the Sennas, Prosts of the world, pretty good. Schumachers, I should mention, right?
Just
Sarah,
Michael Schumacher.
thank you so much. This is a fun day for me because we come back, we're talking some footy.
Yes.
Mikey Singh, another 4-4-2 comrade, will be joining us, talk all things Toronto FC, and maybe some of that Canadian national team nonsense in this past week as well.